You're nothing. Chloe, my son's fiance, sneered at me from across the dinner table, her laugh cutting like a shard of glass. Everyone froze. Her mother, Helen, smirked in agreement. I just sat there, my hand gripping my fork, a quiet rage building just beneath the surface. They thought they knew me, just old, irrelevant David Miller. They were dead wrong. Soon they would find out the truth. And when her mother Googles my name, their entire world will come crashing down. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening from in the comments. The words hit me like a physical blow. You're nothing. Chloe's voice sliced through the low hum of dinner conversation, her laugh sharp and cruel. The room fell silent. My fork stopped moving. A piece of roasted carrot stuck to the tines. Across the polished mahogany table, Chloe leaned back, her perfectly manicured nails catching the light from the chandelier. Her mother, Helen, smirked, her lips curling as if she had just tasted something delicious. My son, Ryan, just stared down at his plate, his shoulders hunched in silence. I sat there, David Miller, 62 years old, feeling the weight of their judgment. A slow-burning rage simmered in my chest. My knuckles turned white around the fork, but I didn't move a muscle. Not yet. The dining room, with its sparkling wine glasses and flickering candlelight, had felt warm and inviting just moments before. Now it felt like a cold stage, and I was the fool they were all laughing at. Chloe tilted her head, her blonde hair catching the light. What's it like, David? Sitting in that little house of yours, thinking about your glory days. Her tone was dripping with contempt, every word a tiny needle. I mean, Ryan told me you used to wear those old suits to your job. What were you, some kind of accountant? Helen chuckled, tapping her wine glass with a long painted nail. Oh, Chloe, be nice. Not everyone can keep up. Some people just fade away. Her eyes met mine, cold and dismissive, as if I were an old piece of furniture she was about to throw out. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, his fork scraping against his plate. He never looked up. My chest felt tight. I wanted to reach out, to shake him, to make him look at me, but his silence was more painful than Chloe's insults. My own son was letting this happen. I placed my fork down, the clink of metal on ceramic echoing in the stillness. Every eye was on me. Chloe's was triumphant, Helen's was smug, and Ryan's was still looking away. The candles cast long, dancing shadows on the tablecloth, like ghosts of the life I had built. They thought they knew me. Old, irrelevant David Miller, a relic to be pitied. They were wrong. Chloe, I said, my voice low and steady, you think you know who I am? I leaned forward slightly, just enough to meet her gaze. Her smile wavered for a fraction of a second. But you have no idea. The room held its breath. Helen raised an eyebrow, but I ignored her. My focus was on Chloe, on the flicker of doubt in her blue eyes. I pushed my chair back, the sound of its legs scraping against the hardwood floor, loud in the quiet room. Excuse me, I said as I stood up. My hands were steady, but my heart was pounding like a drum. I walked out of the dining room, their whispers following me like smoke. The hallway was dim and the air felt cooler. I slowed down as I passed the family portrait on the wall me, my late wife Susan, and a young Ryan, all of us smiling in a world that felt a million miles away. Susan's eyes seemed to follow me, her warmth a ghostly presence in the frame. I stopped, my fingers lightly touching the glass. Chloe's mocking laugh echoed in my head. They would find out soon enough. When Helen Googled my name, their world would fall apart. But first, I had to remember who I was. I turned and headed for my study, the door creaking as I pushed it open. The night was only just beginning. The study door clicked shut behind me, muffling the faint sounds of the dinner party. I stood in the silence, the air filled with the familiar scent of old books and leather. My desk, a heavy mahogany piece from a life that felt like it belonged to someone else, sat in the corner. On it was the family photo, Susan's smile frozen in time, Ryan's small hand holding mine. I walked across the room, my footsteps muffled by the thick rug, and picked up the picture frame. My thumb traced the smooth edge of the glass. A memory surfaced, sharp and clear. It was 1997. I was 34, striding through the modern lobby of a tech startup in downtown Boston. The office was buzzing with energy, phones ringing, keyboards clacking, the sound of ambition. My desk was a chaotic mess of reports, with a coffee mug perched precariously on a stack of papers. My boss, Henry, leaned against the doorframe, his tie loosened. "Miller, you're on track for the director role," he said, tossing a file onto my desk. "Major clients, a corner office. You want it?" I had wanted it. God, I had wanted it more than anything. But Susan's illness had taken a turn for the worse that week, her face looking pale against the white hospital pillows. I could see her in my mind, her hands squeezing mine, her voice a soft whisper. "We'll be okay, David." I looked at Henry, my throat tight. "I need to be at home," I said. He blinked, then gave a slow nod, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. I never opened the file. The memory shifted. It was 2004 now. We were in our small, cluttered kitchen, the refrigerator humming softly. Ryan was 16, all long limbs and quiet teenage angst. I was at the table writing a check for his private school tuition, my fingers aching from working overtime, at a job that paid half of what I used to make. The pen scratched against the paper, each zero a promise I was determined to keep. Ryan came in grabbing a granola bar from the counter. "Thanks, Dad," he mumbled, already heading for the door. He didn't see the pile of bills next to me, and he didn't know I had turned down a better job offer just to stay close to home. Another memory, this time from 2012, Ryan's college graduation. The auditorium was filled with proud families. I sat alone in the back, my suit feeling a little too big, my hands folded in my lap. On stage, Ryan held his diploma, a wide grin on his face. "I want to thank my friends," he said into the microphone, his voice echoing through the hall. "You're the ones who got me here." The crowd applauded. I waited, my chest tight, but he never said my name. I clapped along with everyone else, my hands feeling heavy, my smile a carefully constructed mask. Back in the study, I set the photo down, my breath catching in my throat. I had given up everything, my career, my dreams, my pride for them, and now Chloe's words rang in my ears. "You're nothing." Us, and Ryan's silence was even worse. I had become invisible in my own life. I sank into my chair, the leather groaning under my weight. My eyes landed on a desk drawer that was slightly ajar, revealing the corner of my old contact book. I pulled it out. The leather cover was soft and worn, the pages yellowed with age. It smelled of time, of deals made and promises kept. This book was filled with the names of people who had once called me a visionary, a man who could make things happen. I hadn't opened it in years. My fingers traced the names, each one a connection to a past I had buried. I wasn't that man anymore. Or was I? Chloe and Helen thought they could break me with their words, but they had no idea about the weight I had carried or the strength it took to trade glory for love. I flipped through the pages, my pulse quickening. Then I saw it. Mark Davis. A name that could change everything. I stopped, my thumb pressing down on the page. A small, genuine smile touched my lips. The rage from the dining room was still there, but now it had a purpose. I closed the book, the sound sharp in the quiet room. I stood up, slipped the book into my jacket pocket, and walked toward the door. The phone was in the living room, and I had a call to make. The living room was dimly lit, a single lamp casting a soft glow on the old sofa. I stood by the coffee table, the contact book feeling heavy in my hand, its leather cover warm from my grip. The phone sat on a side table, a black cordless handset that hadn't rung in weeks. My thumb hovered over the keypad. The numbers from Mark Davis's entry burned into my memory. Chloe's sneer echoed in my head. "You're nothing," and my jaw tightened. I wasn't that man, not anymore. I dialed the number, each beep sounding loud in the quiet room. My heart pounded with a mixture of fear and excitement. What if Mark didn't remember me? Or what if he did, but just laughed? The line clicked and a gruff voice answered, "Davis." "Mark," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "It's David Miller." There was a pause, then a low chuckle. "David Miller, as I live and breathe. It's been a while, hasn't it? Too long." I forced a smile even though he couldn't see it. "I need to talk. In person. Are you free tomorrow?" Another pause, this one longer. "What's this about, David?" His tone changed, now laced with curiosity, as if he could sense the gravity behind my words. Let's just say I'm calling in an old favor. I glanced at the contact book, still open to his name. You still at the yacht club? Yeah. Does noon work? His voice had an edge to it now, as if he knew this wasn't just a friendly catch-up. Noon is perfect. I kept my response brief, my fingers tightening on the phone. See you then. Looking forward to it, Miller. The line went dead. I placed the phone back in its cradle, my breathing slow and deliberate. The room felt smaller, the air charged with energy. I walked over to the window, the curtains partially drawn, and looked out at the street. The neighborhood was quiet, with manicured lawns and houses glowing with the lives of people I would never know. My reflection stared back at me from the glass, my eyes looking sharp and focused. For the first time in years, I recognized the man looking back at me. A memory flickered. 1995, a sleek Boston restaurant, all dark wood and clinking glasses. I was 32, my suit crisp, my handshake firm. Across the table, a client leaned forward, his pen hovering over a contract. You drive a hard bargain, Miller, he said, but his smile was one of respect. I had closed the deal in 20 minutes, and the waiters nodded at me as I left. That man, confident, unstoppable, felt close again, his pulse beating in my veins. I turned away from the window, the contact book still in my hand. Chloe and Helen thought they had broken me, but they had only woken me up. Ryan's silence hurt, but I would show him who his father really was. I wasn't going to lose him to their poison. I slipped the book into my pocket, its weight feeling like a key to a door I had locked long ago. Tomorrow, Mark would open that door, and I would walk through it. I didn't know what he would tell me about Helen's secrets, Chloe's games, or something else entirely, but it was a start. I grabbed my coat from the rack, the fabric soft and familiar. The night air would clear my head. I stepped outside, locking the door behind me. The stars were bright in the sky, sharp against the blackness, as if they were watching me. I got into my car, and the engine hummed to life. Mark was waiting, and I was ready. The stars were still sharp in the sky as I pulled into the yacht club's parking lot, their light a faint promise in the spring dusk. I turned off the engine, my hand lingering on the keys. The contact book was in my jacket pocket, its weight a reminder of the man I used to be. I got out of the car, the gravel crunching under my shoes, and adjusted my tie. The club's glass doors gleamed ahead, reflecting the manicured lawns and the wealthy patrons who moved across them. This was their world, Helen's and Chloe's. But today, I was stepping into it. Inside, the air smelled of salt water and expensive cologne. The bar was tucked away in a corner, its marble countertop catching the afternoon sun. Mark Davis sat at a high-top table, his gray hair thinning but his eyes as sharp as I remembered. He raised a glass of whiskey in greeting, a half-smile on his face. David Miller, he said as I approached, his voice gravelly. I didn't think I'd see you in a place like this again. I slid onto the stool across from him, my fingers brushing against the contact book in my jacket. Times change, I said, keeping my tone light. The bartender was polishing a glass nearby, his ears clearly perked. I leaned in closer. I need your help, Mark. He swirled his drink, the ice clinking against the glass. I figured as much. What's got you crawling out of retirement? His eyes scanned me, sizing me up as if we were back in the 90s, closing deals over steak dinners. I lowered my voice. Helen Peterson and her daughter Chloe. They're involved with my son. The words tasted bitter. Chloe's sneer. You're nothing flashed in my mind, and my jaw tightened. Mark's eyebrow lifted, but he didn't interrupt. I continued. They think they can walk all over me. I need to know what I'm dealing with. He leaned back, glancing around the bar. A couple in tennis whites laughed at the counter, oblivious to our conversation. Mark's voice dropped. Helen's living on borrowed time, David. That big house of hers? Second mortgage, completely maxed out. She's been dodging creditors for months. He took a sip of his whiskey, his eyes locked on mine. As for Chloe, she's on the hunt. Your boy's trust fund is her ticket to the good life. My pulse quickened, but I kept my expression neutral. Helen's smug smile at the dinner table flickered in my memory, her manicured nails tapping her wine glass. Broke, desperate, and Chloe clinging to Ryan like a vulture. I felt a spark of something anger, yes, but also clarity. They weren't untouchable. How bad is it? I asked, my voice low. Helen's debt. Mark chuckled, but there was no humor in it. Bad enough that one wrong move could sink her. She's banking on Chloe's marriage to bail her out. He paused, his fingers drumming on the table. Are you sure you want to play this game, Miller? It's not the old days. I met his gaze, my hand slipping into my pocket to touch the contact book. I'm sure. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. All right, but you didn't hear this from me. He slid a business card across the table, its edge catching the sunlight. Call this guy. He's got all the details, bank records, the works. He's discreet. I picked up the card, its surface smooth under my thumb. It felt like a key, one that could unlock their facade. I pulled out my pen and jotted a note in my contact book, the scratch of the ink loud in my ears. The light from the bar's windows glinted off the glass table, sharp and clear, just like my thoughts. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was making moves. Thanks, Mark, I said, pocketing the card. I owe you. He waved a hand, his smile wry. Just don't get in too deep. He drained his glass and stood up, clapping me on the shoulder. Good to see you, David. I watched him go, his silhouette blending into the crowd of tailored suits and clinking glasses. My chest felt lighter, but my mind was racing. Helen's debts, Chloe's greed. These were pieces of a puzzle I could use. But Ryan, would he see through them or would he turn away from me? The thought stung, but I pushed it down. One step at a time. I stood up, the contact book a steady weight against my heart. Outside, the air was cool, the stars beginning to fade into the afternoon haze. I slid into my car, the business card in my hand. Its edges were crisp, promising answers. I turned it over, my eyes narrowing. The game was on, and I was ready to play. The study was quiet, the desk lamp casting a warm pool of light on my laptop. The business card from Mark lay beside it, its corners sharp, a key to the door I was about to open. I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking, and stared at the screen. The cursor blinked in an empty document waiting. Chloe's voice echoed in my mind. You're nothing. And a slow smile spread across my face. Not tonight. I started typing, the keys clicking softly. It was a formal invitation to a charity auction, addressed to Helen Peterson. The words flowed easily. Esteemed guest, honor of your presence, keynote address. I chose each phrase carefully, crafting a trap she couldn't resist. Helen, with her inflated sense of pride, would jump at the chance to shine in front of Boston's elite. But I knew what Mark had told me. Her accounts were dry, her facade a house of cards. One public promise, one failed payment, and the whispers would begin. My fingers paused, hovering over the keyboard. I pictured Helen opening the envelope, her eyes lighting up at the embossed letterhead I had mocked up. She would preen, maybe call Chloe to brag. This is my moment, she'd say, her voice dripping with self-importance. But when the auctioneer called for her pledge, her card would be declined. The crowd would murmur, their eyes sharp with judgment. Her perfect mask would crack. I leaned forward, my pulse quickening. The plan was simple but brutal. Helen's humiliation would create ripples, shaking Chloe's confidence, maybe even her grip on Ryan. But a pang of doubt hit me. Ryan, what if he blamed me? What if this pushed him further away? I gripped the edge of the desk, my knuckles turning white. No. I couldn't stop now. They had mocked me, dismissed me. I would show them who David Miller was. I hit print, and the machine hummed to life. The paper slid out, crisp and clean. No signature, no trace. I folded it carefully and slid it into an envelope I had bought that morning plain, unremarkable. My pen scratched out her address, each letter deliberate. The envelope felt heavy in my hands, like a grenade with the pin half pulled. I stood up, the chair scraping against the floor, and glanced at the clock. Just past 6. The postbox was a short walk away, and I wanted this done tonight. I slipped the envelope into my coat pocket and opened the study door. It creaked, a low groan that felt like the house itself was waking up. The hallway was dim, the family photo on the wall catching the light. Susan's smile steadied me. This was for her too, for the life we had built, for the sacrifices they had trampled on. Outside, the air was crisp, the streetlights buzzing faintly. The postbox stood at the corner, its blue bulk solid in the dusk. I walked quickly, my breath fogging in the March chill. The envelope pressed against my chest, a secret I was about to unleash. I reached the box, my hand on the handle, and paused. In my mind, I saw Helen again, her face paling as she opened the letter, her fingers trembling. "Chloe," she'd say, her voice bright with pride, "they've chosen me." She had no idea. I pulled the handle, the slot yawning open. The envelope dropped with a soft thud. Done. A rush hit me, part thrill, part guilt. I had crossed a line and there was no going back. Headlights swept across the street, and I stepped back into the shadows. A car slowed down Chloe's sleek BMW, unmistakable. My heart jumped. Had she seen me? The car rolled past, her silhouette a vague shape through the tinted windows. I exhaled, my hands clenching. She hadn't stopped. But the sight of her, so close, lit a fire in me. This was just the beginning. I turned and walked back toward the house, the night closing in. The game was in motion, and I was no longer the prey. The banquet hall's glow spilled onto the sidewalk as I approached. A red carpet leading to glass doors that reflected the city's skyline. Chloe's BMW pulled up just ahead, its engine purring before it was whisked away by a valet. I adjusted my tie and slipped inside, keeping to the shadows near the entrance. The air was thick with perfume and the clinking of champagne flutes, the crowd a sea of sequins and tailored suits. I stayed by a column, my eyes scanning for Helen. The trap was set, and I was here to watch it spring. The hall was a spectacle, with crystal chandeliers casting prisms on the walls and a string quartet playing softly in the corner. Helen stood on a raised platform, her emerald gown catching the light as she smiled at the podium. Her voice carried polished and proud. "And this cause means so much to me," she said, her hands gesturing grandly. "I'm thrilled to pledge $50,000 tonight." The crowd clapped, but I saw the auctioneer's assistant frown, her tablet glowing as she tapped the screen. My pulse quickened. I leaned against the column, my fingers brushing the contact book in my pocket. The assistant whispered to the auctioneer, who stepped forward, his smile tight. "Mrs. Peterson," he said, his voice amplified, "there seems to be an issue with your payment." Helen froze, her hand mid-gesture. The room stilled, the quartet's notes fading away. "An issue?" she repeated, her laugh brittle. "That's impossible. Try it again." The auctioneer glanced at his assistant, who shook her head. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The transaction was declined." His words hung in the air, sharp as a blade. Whispers rippled through the crowd, heads turning. Helen's face flushed, her eyes darting across the sea of faces. "This is a mistake," she snapped, her voice cracking. "I'll handle it later." The auctioneer nodded, but the damage was done. Guests leaned toward each other, their murmurs growing. I caught fragments, overextended, living beyond her means. Helen gripped the podium, her knuckles white, her smile a mask that was slipping fast. In the corner, Chloe pulled Ryan aside, her face twisted with fury. "This is your fault," she hissed, her voice low but venomous. "Your family is dragging us down." Ryan's shoulders slumped, his hands raised in defense. "Chloe, I didn't," he started, but she cut him off, her heels clicking as she stormed toward Helen. My chest tightened. Seeing Ryan caught in her claws hurt, but Helen's fall was sweeter. I had done this, plotted, waited, and struck. The letter had worked, luring her into a spotlight she couldn't afford. But the sight of Ryan's bowed head gnawed at me. What if he hated me for this? I pushed the thought away, focusing on Helen's unraveling. I edged toward the side doors, the wood cool under my palm. Part of me wanted to stay, to drink in every second of her humiliation. But I'd seen enough. The whispers would spread, her reputation fraying like cheap thread. Chloe's panic was a bonus, her control slipping. This was just the first cut. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I slipped it out. The screen glowed with a text from Sarah, Susan's old friend. "David, we need to talk. Can you meet tomorrow?" My thumb hovered over the reply. Sarah Sharp, loyal, always in the know. What did she have for me? I typed a quick, "Yes, noon," and pocketed the phone. I pushed the door open, the night air cool against my face. The city hummed beyond, its lights bright and unforgiving. I walked to my car, the text from Sarah looping in my mind. Helen's stumble was just the start, and Sarah's message felt like the next piece falling into place. The cafe's door chimed as I pushed it open, the scent of fresh coffee wrapping around me like a warm blanket. My phone was still in my hand, Sarah's message glowing on the screen. "Meet me at Rosie's, 11 a.m. I slipped it into my pocket, my eyes scanning the room. There she was near the window, her auburn hair catching the morning light. Sarah waved, her smile soft but knowing, as if she'd been waiting for this moment as long as I had. My chest tightened with a mix of hope, nostalgia, and a flicker of the past. I crossed the hardwood floor, the creak of my shoes blending with the hum of conversation. The cafe was cozy, with wooden tables and mismatched mugs, sunlight streaming through tall windows. I slid into the chair across from Sarah, the warmth of the ceramic mug she'd ordered for me grounding my nerves. "You look good, David," she said, her voice gentle as if she were testing the waters. "Thanks," I said, my fingers curling around the mug. "It's been a while." Susan's laugh flashed in my mind, her hand on Sarah's shoulder during those long-ago summer barbecues. I pushed the memory down, focusing on Sarah's steady gaze. She leaned forward, her elbows on the table. "I heard about the dinner," she said, her tone shifting. Sharper now. "Chloe's little stunt, calling you a nobody in your own home." Her lips pressed into a thin line, and I saw the fire in her eyes, the same fire Susan had when someone crossed her. I nodded, my jaw tight. She and Helen think they've got me figured out. They're wrong. Sarah's smile returned, small but fierce. "Good, because I've got something you'll want to hear." She glanced around, her voice dropping. "Chloe's not just after Ryan's money. She's tangled up with a guy, some lowlife who's been fleecing people for years. They're planning to use your son's trust fund to bankroll their scam." My breath caught, the mug suddenly heavy in my hands. Chloe's sneer at the dinner table flashed back, her blue eyes cold and calculating. I'd known she was greedy, but this? A con artist pulling her strings. My pulse quickened, anger mixing with a strange relief. This was leverage. Real leverage. "How do you know?" I asked, keeping my voice low. Sarah's eyes flicked to the window, then back to me. "I've got friends who talk, people who see things." She paused, her fingers tapping the table. "Susan always said you were sharp, David. Said you could outsmart anyone, so what's your move?" I leaned back, the chair creaking. The cafe's warmth felt distant now, my mind racing. Chloe's scam could ruin Ryan, but if I played this right, it could ruin her instead. "We set a trap," I said, the words forming as I spoke. "Something she can't resist. A fake deal, maybe. Get her to show her hand." Sarah's eyes lit up. "I like it. I can pose as a go-between. Feed her a story about a big investor. She's greedy. She'll bite." She reached into her purse and pulled out a faded photo, sliding it across the table. It was Susan and Sarah laughing on a beach, their hair whipped by the wind. "For luck," she said softly. "And because she'd want us to do this." I touched the photo, my throat tight. Susan's smile was a lifeline, a reminder of why I was fighting. "She would," I said, my voice rough. I slipped the photo into my pocket, next to the contact book. "Who do we need to pull this off?" Sarah's smile turned sly. "I've got a name, an old contact of yours, actually." She handed me a napkin, her handwriting neat and precise. I glanced at it, keeping it angled away from the other patrons. It was a name, but I didn't read it aloud. Not here. "Perfect," I said, folding the napkin and tucking it away. The plan was taking shape, a web I'd weave around Chloe. But Ryan's face, his silence at the dinner, gnawed at me. What if he didn't see the truth? What if he chose her? I pushed the fear down, focusing on Sarah's steady gaze. We stood, the table wobbling slightly as we pushed our chairs back. Outside, the spring air was crisp, the street bustling with midday shoppers. As we stepped onto the sidewalk, something slipped from my pocket. A business card, yellowed with age, fluttering to the ground. I bent to pick it up, my fingers brushing the familiar name. A slow smile spread across my face. This was the key I needed. I sat in my study, the old business card between my fingers, its edges worn but the name still clear. My phone buzzed on the desk. Sarah's message lit up the screen. "In the office, she's here." My pulse jumped, a steady thrum in my chest. Chloe was walking into the trap, and I was miles away, orchestrating it all. The contact book lay open beside me, a reminder of the man who'd closed deals with a handshake. That man was back. I leaned back, the chair creaking, and pictured the scene Sarah had described. A sleek Boston office, all glass walls and polished steel. The kind of place Chloe would feel at home. Sarah, posing as an investor's assistant, would be offering her a deal too good to pass up a high-stakes venture that needed connected partners. Chloe, greedy and blind, would take the bait. My phone buzzed again. She's talking. Recording now. I exhaled, my fingers tightening on the card. Sarah was good, better than good. She'd play Chloe like a fiddle, and every word would be caught on tape. I stood, pacing the study, the rug soft under my shoes. The air smelled of wood polish and time, the family photo on the desk watching me. Susan's eyes seemed to urge me on. I imagined Chloe in that office, her blonde hair perfect, her smile all charm. "I know just the person," she'd say, tossing out the name of her con artist partner like it was a business card. She wouldn't suspect Sarah's hidden recorder, wouldn't see the net closing. The thought sent a thrill through me, but a shadow followed. Ryan. If I sent him this recording, would he believe it? Or would he cling to Chloe, shutting me out for good? My steps slowed, my hand brushing the contact book. Susan had always believed in me. I had to trust Ryan would too. Another buzz. Got it. She named him. Leo Vance. Sending you the file. My heart leaped. Leo Vance. A name I could use, a thread to pull. I opened my laptop, the screen glowing in the dim room. The file arrived, a tiny audio clip that held Chloe's downfall. I didn't play it, not yet. Instead, I pulled a blank envelope from the drawer and slipped a USB drive inside. No note, no signature. Ryan would get it anonymously, delivered to his office tomorrow. I sealed the envelope, my hand steady, but my mind racing. Chloe's voice, her betrayal, would hit Ryan like a freight train. But what then? Would he confront her or bury it? I pushed the doubt away, focusing on the task. The USB felt like a key, unlocking the truth I'd been chasing. I slid the business card into the drawer. Its job was done for now. The contact book stayed on the desk, a silent partner in this game. I grabbed my coat, the envelope tucked inside. The postbox was a quick drive, and I wanted this done before I lost my nerve. The hallway was quiet as I passed the family photo. Susan's smile a steadying force. I opened the front door, the evening air cool against my face, and stepped outside. Headlights flashed down the street, and I froze. Helen's car, unmistakable with its gleaming chrome, was parked outside Ryan's house, 2 blocks away. My grip tightened on the envelope. What was she doing there? Was she rallying, trying to salvage her crumbling empire? The sight of her car was a spark, igniting a new wave of resolve. Chloe was teetering, and Helen was next. I climbed into my car, the engine humming to life. The envelope pressed against my chest, a promise I'd deliver. But Helen's presence was a warning. Time was running out, and the game was far from over. Helen's car gleamed under the streetlight, its chrome bumper a stark contrast to the quiet of Ryan's suburban street. I stood in the shadows, my breath shallow, the envelope with the USB still in my coat pocket. From inside Ryan's house, raised voices spilled out. Helen's sharp and frantic, cutting through the evening air. My plan had hit her hard, and she was flailing. I edged closer, the grass damp under my shoes, and pressed myself against the hedge. The words were clear now, and they were about me. Inside Helen's house, just hours earlier, the scene had been chaos. I pictured it vividly, piecing it together from the whispers I'd set in motion. She'd torn open a letter, its letterhead official, the words brutal, her debts, her missed payments, splashed across a local gossip column for all of Boston's elite to see. Her hands would have shaken, the paper crumpling as she screamed into her phone, blaming everyone, her accountant, her lawyer, even Chloe. But the truth was out, a wound I'd inflicted with a few well-placed calls and a leak to the right people. Her empire of appearances was crumbling. Now, in Ryan's living room, she was lashing out. "It's your father," she shouted, her voice a jagged edge. "He's behind this, Ryan. He's trying to ruin me." I peered through the window, the curtains half open. Helen stood in the center of the room, her silk blouse wrinkled, her hair slipping from its perfect bun. Ryan sat on the couch, his face tight, while Chloe hovered near the doorway, her arms crossed. I held my breath, my heart pounding. Helen's accusation was a wild swing, but it was dangerous. If Ryan believed her, if he turned on me, everything could unravel. But I saw his eyes, narrowed, uncertain. He wasn't buying it. Not yet. "Helen, calm down," Ryan said, his voice low but firm. "You don't know it was him." "Don't I?" she snapped, pacing like a caged animal. "He's bitter, Ryan. Jealous of Chloe, of us. He's a nobody who can't stand our success." Her words echoed Chloe's from that dinner, and my jaw clenched. Nobody. The word was their weapon, but it was losing its edge. I shifted, my hand brushing the contact book in my pocket. I'd orchestrated this, fed the press just enough to expose Helen's lies without leaving a trace. The leak was clean, untraceable, but her panic was proof it had landed. She was unraveling, her status slipping through her fingers like sand. Chloe stepped forward, her voice icy. "If it's David, he's smarter than I thought." Her eyes flicked to Ryan, testing him. "But you'd know, wouldn't you? He's your father." Ryan's head snapped up, his fists clenching. "Leave it, Chloe." The tension in his voice sent a chill through me. He was caught between them, but his doubt in Helen was a crack I could widen. Helen whirled on me, though she didn't know I was there. "He's a vindictive old man," she spat. "You'll see, Ryan. He'll drag you down with him." Her voice broke, and I saw it. Fear. Not just of me, but of losing everything. Her status, her control, her daughter's future. She was bleeding out, and I'd barely lifted a finger. I stepped back, my shoes silent on the grass. I'd heard enough. Helen's counterattack was desperate, but it was failing. Ryan's silence, his doubt, was my victory. I turned toward the street, the envelope still in my pocket. The USB would reach him soon, and Chloe would fall next. But Helen's words lingered, a warning. She wasn't done fighting. I drove home, the night closing in, and parked in my driveway. The house was dark, the air heavy as I stepped inside. My study felt like a sanctuary, the desk lamp casting a soft glow. On a whim, I opened a closet and found it. Susan's old laptop, its surface scuffed but familiar. I set it on the desk, my fingers tracing the keys she'd once touched. Something told me it held answers, pieces of the past I'd need for the fight ahead. I powered it on, the screen flickering to life. The study was hushed, the glow of Susan's old laptop casting shadows on the walls. Its hum filled the silence, a faint reminder of her presence. I sat at the desk, my fingers hovering over the keys, the contact book open beside me. The screen flickered, showing a folder labeled Family, her files, her memories. My chest tightened, but before I could open it, my phone buzzed. Sarah's name flashed. I answered, my voice low. "What's happening?" "Helen's losing it," Sarah said, her tone sharp with excitement. "She's at home, digging through your past, Googling you like her life depends on it." A pause, then a soft laugh. "She's about to find out who you really are." I leaned back, a slow smile spreading across my face. The image was vivid. Helen. Her perfect nails clicking frantically on her keyboard, her eyes wide as she uncovered the truth. I could almost see her, perched in her opulent office, the chandelier above her dimmed by her panic. My past decades in the tech world, deals that shaped Boston's skyline, sacrifices for Susan and Ryan, was no secret to those who looked. But Helen and Chloe hadn't looked. They'd seen only a tired old man, a nobody. Now, the truth would hit like a tidal wave. I pictured her screen, articles about my early career, my name in bold next to million-dollar contracts, a profile in a local paper praising my quiet charity work after I'd stepped away from the spotlight. A photo of me at a gala, Susan on my arm, her smile brighter than the flashbulbs. Helen's world, built on status and lies, would crumble as she realized her mistake. "Thanks, Sarah," I said, my voice steady. "Let me know how it lands." I hung up, my gaze drifting to the laptop. I clicked the family folder, revealing photos and letters, but my mind was on Helen. I saw her now, her face paling as she scrolled, her coffee cup forgotten, spilling on her desk. She'd thought me irrelevant, a shadow to mock. Now, she'd see the man who'd outplayed her. Hours later, I stood in Ryan's living room, the air thick with tension. The family photo from my house seemed to echo in the one on his mantelpiece. Years ago, smiling. Helen and Chloe stood before me, their faces strained. Ryan lingered by the couch, his eyes flickering between us, a new weight in his gaze. Respect, maybe. I held the photo of Susan that Sarah had given me, its edges soft in my hand, her strength grounding me. Helen stepped forward, her voice trembling. "David, we didn't know," she said, her usual poise gone. "Your career, your life. We misjudged you. I'm sorry." Her eyes begged, but they were hollow, grasping for a control she'd lost. Chloe nodded, her hands twisting a bracelet. "I was wrong, David," she said, her voice small, forced. "I didn't mean to hurt you. Can we start over?" I looked at them, their words as thin as paper. Chloe's sneer from the dinner table, "You're nothing," rang in my ears. Helen's smirk, her cruel dismissal, burned in my memory. They weren't sorry. They were scared, cornered by their own failures. I tightened my grip on the photo, Susan's smile a shield. "You saw what you wanted to see," I said, my voice cold, cutting through their pleas. "You mocked me, humiliated me in my own home. Apologies don't erase that." Helen flinched, her lips parting, but no words came. Chloe's eyes darted to Ryan, seeking rescue, but he stayed silent, his jaw tight. I saw it then, a shift in him, a dawning realization. He was seeing me, really seeing me, for the first time in years. My heart ached, but I stood firm, the contact book in my pocket, a quiet ally. "David, please," Helen tried again, her voice cracking. "We can make this right." I shook my head, stepping toward the door. "It's too late for that." My eyes met Ryan's, and for a moment, we held each other's gaze. There was pain there, but also something new, understanding. I turned, my hand on the doorknob, and walked out. Sarah was waiting by my car, her arms crossed, her smile soft but knowing. The evening air was cool, the streetlights buzzing faintly. "You did it, David," she said, her voice warm. "They're done. Now what?" I paused, the photo still in my hand, Susan's presence steadying me. "Now," I said, "we talk about what's next." Sarah nodded, gesturing to her car. I followed, my steps lighter, the night opening before us like a new chapter. The park was quiet, the morning sun filtering through budding trees, casting dappled light on the path. I sat on a bench beside Sarah, a paper coffee cup warming my hands. The air smelled of fresh grass and spring, a world waking up. Sarah's presence was steady, her shoulder brushing mine as we talked, her voice a soft anchor after the storm. She'd been waiting by my car last night, her offer to talk, pulling me here, to this moment of calm after the chaos. "Chloe's gone," Sarah said, sipping her coffee. "She broke off the engagement this morning, packed her things, and left Ryan's place." Her eyes met mine, a spark of triumph in them. "And Helen? She's a ghost now. The country club's blacklisted her, and her so-called friends won't return her calls." I nodded, the weight of it settling in. Helen's empire, built on borrowed money and borrowed time, had collapsed. Chloe's schemes, her con artist partner exposed, had crumbled under the truth I'd sent Ryan on that USB. I'd won, but the victory was bittersweet. Ryan's silence at the dinner table, his bowed head as Chloe and Helen tore into me, still stung. I wanted him back, not just his respect. Sarah set her cup down, her hand resting on the bench. "You're quiet," she said, her tone gentle. "What's on your mind?" I looked at the coffee, steam curling in the cool air. "Ryan," I said, "I got their respect, Sarah, but I don't know if I've got him." My voice was rough, the fear I'd buried rising. "What if he can't forgive me for this?" She touched my arm, her fingers light but firm. "Give him time, David. He's seeing you now, really seeing you. That's a start." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. "Dad, can we talk? At the house, please." My heart jumped, hope and dread tangling in my chest. I showed Sarah the screen, and she smiled. "Go," she said. "He's ready." I drove to Ryan's house, the streets familiar but heavy with memory. His front door was open when I arrived, the living room warm with morning light. A photo of us, me, Susan, and Ryan as a boy, sat on the coffee table, its frame polished as if he'd been looking at it. He stood by the window, his shoulders tense, but his eyes met mine, clear and steady. "Dad," he said, his voice breaking, "I was blind. Chloe, Helen, they fed me lies and I let them." He stepped closer, his hands clenched. "But you were always there, sacrificing everything." "I didn't see it. I'm sorry." The words hit like a wave, washing away years of distance. I swallowed, my throat tight. "I just wanted you to know who I am, Ryan," I said. "Not for apologies, for respect." He nodded, his eyes bright. "I do. I see you now." He reached out, his hand gripping mine, strong and sure. For the first time in years, I felt my son, not the shadow of him. We sat talking for longer than we had in years. He told me about Chloe's lies, Helen's desperation, and I listened, the rift between us closing. When I left, the photo on the table seemed brighter, as if it held a new promise. Later, I met Sarah at the park again. She handed me a small key, its metal cool in my palm. "Susan's old office," she said. "I've been holding on to it. We could use it for a charity project in her name. What do you say?" I turned the key over, its weight a new kind of key, unlocking a future I hadn't dared to imagine. "I say it's time to start over," I said, my voice firm. Sarah's smile was warm, her presence a comfort I hadn't known I needed. I drove home, the key in my pocket, my mind on Susan. The cemetery wasn't far, and I felt her calling. I needed to tell her it was done, that we were whole again. The road stretched ahead, the morning bright, and I let myself breathe. The cemetery gate creaked as I pushed it open, the evening air soft with the scent of blooming lilacs. Susan's grave was tucked beneath an oak, its leaves whispering in the breeze. I knelt, setting a bouquet of her favorite daisies against the headstone, their petals bright against the gray stone. The key to her old office was heavy in my pocket, a promise I'd carried here. I touched the headstone, the granite cool under my fingers, and let the words come. "I did it, love," I said, my voice low, meant only for her. "I showed them. Chloe, Helen, they're gone. Ryan's back, and he sees me now." My throat tightened, but I smiled. "You'd be proud, Susan. I fought for us." The sunset painted the sky in hues of gold and pink, its light softening the edges of the world. I sat back, the grass damp beneath me, and let the memories flood in. The dinner, Chloe's cruel laugh, Helen's smirk. They'd thought me nothing, a relic to discard. But I'd unraveled their lies piece by piece. The USB I'd sent Ryan, exposing Chloe's con. The leak that bared Helen's debts. Sarah's help, her sharp mind turning my plans into reality. It had been a war, and I'd won. Helen was a pariah now, her name a whisper of scandal in the circles she'd once ruled. Chloe, stripped of her charm and her engagement, had slunk away, her schemes in tatters. I didn't gloat, not aloud, but the justice of it settled deep. A quiet satisfaction. They'd underestimated me, and it had cost them everything. Ryan's apology echoed in my mind, his hand gripping mine, his eyes clear with regret and respect. That moment, more than Helen's fall or Chloe's defeat, was my true victory. My son was mine again, not lost to their poison. And Sarah, her friendship, her fire, had given me something new, a purpose beyond the fight. The key in my pocket was proof, a charity in Susan's name, a legacy we'd build together. I didn't know if Sarah and I would be more than friends, but her presence was enough, a light I hadn't expected. I stood, brushing dirt from my knees. "We're starting over," I told Susan, my voice steady. "Me, Ryan, Sarah, we'll make you proud." The wind stirred, carrying the scent of daisies, and I felt her. Not in the stone, but in the air. The light, the quiet strength I'd carried through this. I walked to the gate, the cemetery's iron doors looming ahead. They weren't a barrier, but an opening, a threshold to something new. I paused, glancing back at her grave, the daisies glowing in the fading light. The fight was over, but life wasn't. There was work to do, plans with Sarah, bridges to rebuild with Ryan, a future to shape. I slipped the key from my pocket, its metal catching the sunset's glow. It felt right, a piece of Susan I'd carry forward. I stepped through the gate, my car waiting beyond, its engine a soft hum when I started it. The road stretched into the dusk, the horizon bright with possibility. I drove, the key in my hand, the world open before me.